Hello, friends. It's the end of 2017, the beginning of 2018, and I'd like to talk to you very quickly about archiving your 2017 images, backing them up safely, and moving forward with a good organization for keeping track and keeping safe all your digital images. I'm George Simeon, and I'm going to talk about my own backing up and archiving workflow. Specifically, using Lightroom, which allows us to have access to all the images we've imported in the catalog from past 20 years, even without having direct access to the original RAW files. Before I do that, I want to go over a few, let's call them commandments, some very basic rules that you have to keep in mind. The first one is that all your digital files must exist in at least 3 places at all times. Not 1, not 2, but 3. And I suggest you organize them in one group that's online, meaning accessible to your computer, another that's offline, meaning on external hard drives that are not connected to your computer, and a third set that's actually off-site. That means outside of your office. Now, backups only work if they're done regularly or if they're done automatically. If you only do them once every 3 weeks or whenever you feel like it or whenever you have a crisis, you're likely to not have a backup ready when you need it. Ideally, you should back up daily or at least every other day, or certainly after every time you bring new images into Lightroom. One backup should be outside your office at all times, so that if something happens to your house, it burns down, there's a flood, there's a burglary, there's always one backup that you can go to that has all your image files outside. And you want to rotate them, the 3 backups I talked about, within your office and outside the office, roughly once a week, or certainly right after you've brought in an important new set of images into Lightroom. The way to organize your computer is ideally to have 2 separate drives to keep the system, the apps, and the Lightroom folder on a solid-state drive. Solid-state drives are very fast, very reliable, and they are pretty much the standard in modern Macs, but if you have an older machine, you can always buy one. I'm a big fan of Otherworld Computing in Chicago. Their website is macsales.com, and they have a wide range of SSDs with great technology and very good prices. However, image files, RAW files, take up a lot of space, and it's not economical nor necessary to store them on SSDs. For that, you would want traditional hard drives that today go up to 8, 10, even 12 terabytes. You don't need that much, but 3, 4 terabytes are very economical nowadays. And you would have one of those internally and several of those externally. You do have a choice in the hard drives you buy, from looking at Backblaze, which is an online backup service. They use tens of thousands of hard drives. They've had very good results with Hitachi, pretty good results with Western Digital, and very poor results with Seagate. So let that be your guide in what kind of hard drives you buy. I suggest that you store your images in the folders they were captured in, the folders being each event that you shot. Keep them those folders, don't move them around, but tag the images with metadata and organize collections within Lightroom to have images on a similar theme or for a particular purpose from very different shoots available all together in a collection. One suggestion, if you want to learn more about organizing images, is to read up on the digital asset management, DAM. Peter Krogh wrote the first, most accessible public book on this in 2009. Third edition is coming out pretty soon, and he even has a specific let's call it ebook about organizing your pictures with Lightroom that's really worthwhile. That's thedamnbook.com. Finally, I suggest that you keep all the different photo shoots for the year into one master folder named by the year. So I have a 2017 folder that contains all the subfolders for every photo shoot you did during 2017. At the end of each year, go through this big folder, call the week images, cut back, in half or a quarter of all the images that you're keeping, and then take that 2017 folder, archive it in 3 separate places, then delete it from the internal drive, and reconnect Lightroom with one of the external drives to build smart previews that you want to keep in the Lightroom catalog. You want to archive to at least 3 separate media, so not different partitions on one drive, but 3 separate hard drives. And probably the easiest and cheapest way to rotate lots of hard drives around is to buy one of these toasters, again from maxsales.com, that are available elsewhere. You simply buy bare drives and you just insert them, just like a piece of bread in a toaster. They can handle both the 3.5 and the 2.5 drives. They have a variety of connectors. You don't need Thunderbolt. This is not about high speed. It's simply about reliability. However, each backup and archive that you make must be verified. That means that the software you use should check that the copy is identical to the original. Here's a lineup of backup software ranked. I use number 2, number 4, and number 5. I use ChronoSync, Carbon Copy Cloner, and SuperDuper. I think they're all great. I don't use any of the others, so I can't talk about them. But all of them verify their backups. This is ChronoSync, and it can be used to back up just a folder or an entire drive, or to create a bootable backup, which I'll talk about in a few seconds. A clone is an exact copy of a hard drive, and if that hard drive is your startup drive, it includes your system, which is not visible to you. So a clone allows you to have an exact copy of an internal drive with a system on it. In case something happens to your computer, you simply plug that clone into another computer and you can start right away with all your apps working, your email, your passwords, exactly as it was. An archive, however, is a drive filled with folders of images that you store for the long run. And you don't want to write to that. You want to read from it and write to a current drive. So again, a clone is something that you would update every week or maybe every couple of days. But an archive is something that you create once at the end of the year, and then you simply read from it. You don't write to it again. A lot of people use RAIDs, but it's important to understand that a RAID is not a backup. It's simply a way of accessing a lot of drives in one unit. There's always the possibility of accidental deletions, corruptions, viruses, and the RAID itself is a single point of failure. You could have some kind of a power surge, or water dripping from the ceiling, or all sorts of other incidents that will destroy the whole RAID. So the RAID is not a backup. It's simply a larger virtual drive than simply having individual drives. This is my arrangement, and it works fine for a sole proprietor. I have a computer with 2 drives in it, an SSD with the system, the applications, and the Lightroom folder, and then a separate hard drive with all the images on it. At the end of each year, or soon thereafter, I go through the previous year's folder, I call all the week images, and then I archive them in external drives. On a daily basis, or every other day or so, I have an online backup that clones both of these 2 drives. But then at the end of the year, once I make the archive, those drives are kept separately. There's a whole set of them that stays in my office, and another set that stays off-site in a safe deposit box just a block away from my house. And as I mentioned, gets rotated about once a week. So I hope this gave you an overview of how I back up and archive my image files every year. Feel free to contact me. I have a website, an Instagram account, a Facebook page called George Simeon Teaches, and find out about my upcoming workshops, both on post-processing and, more importantly, actual hands-on shooting workshops focused on lighting with subjects such as dance or photographing actresses on location. Thank you.